And hello YouTube, this is Thomas Judge back once again with another YouTube reading guide series. Today's the third of 11 videos I'm releasing over the next few weeks, each of which will cover a specific DC universe-wide event. The reason I've created these maps is as a byproduct of my creation of a Superman reading order, which I'm actually releasing interspersed with these videos in real time. To create that reading guide, I had to read over 1,600 comic issues. That's every Superman single issue, spin-off and tie-in from 1991 all the way up to Flashpoint in 2011. That also meant I've read the issues that intersected with various events, and as a result of that, I used that knowledge to build this, the internet's most detailed reading maps for a whole series of DC Universe events. Unlike the Superman reading guide, which is so straightforward, although it's very long and has lots of subtle complexity, that takes the form of a Google Sheet, split into 14 tabs. The maps that I've made for the various DC events will generally be infographics, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. Each event gets its own map, and they can be viewed for free on my website. So this playlist is going to contain every single DC event video in chronological order, taking it up to 11 videos in total, at least to start with. And if you're interested in the Superman guide too, but you're not watching the Superman playlist, don't worry, that YouTube playlist contains these videos as well. First things first, bit of housekeeping and scene setting. This is a key to the map that you're about to see. I always split events that I personally read, and in 99% of cases I've read every single issue I talk about. I split them into three types of issue. In green, we have essential issues that contain key points for the main event. In amber, we have related issues that are impacted by the event and do intersect with it, but they're not essential. And in red, we have token issues, which only have the faintest link to the event, if at all. Often they only have branding. On that note, if a line is a solid line, that means the cover has branding for that particular event on the cover. If there's a dotted line, it means that it's not branded. Well, with no further ado, let's have a look at the event we're going to talk about today. Here is Underworld Unleashed. And what you're looking at is an infographic for all 53 issues, split into those three types of groups and a recommended reading order for completionists. We're going to zoom in a second, actually spend most of the video zooming in, zooming around, because this is a high resolution, infinitely scalable map that I've created. But to start off with, I just want to talk about what Underworld Unleashed actually is. It's a universe-wide event that DC released in 1995. The main concept of it involved the new ruler of hell, which is a demon lord named Neron, initially going around and offering many of the DC Universe supervillains a deal, basically, make a deal with the devil sort of thing. And then subsequently, he went around and made a similar deal with the devil type scenario with a number of DC Universe superheroes. In each case, he was bargaining for their soul. A lot of the villains did accept his offer, but some didn't. So it's really interesting to kind of work out what happened and what they got in return for the offers that they made. So this map is a little bit different from previous ones that we've seen. In fact, all my maps are always relatively unique. So for this one, as I'm just zooming in, zooming around, you'll see all the green ones are on the left. And in terms of essential issues, there aren't especially a huge number of them, to be honest. There's literally only 7 green issues out of these 53. So there are 7 essential issues. But as you can see, there's a lot of orange, a lot of related, and there's quite a lot of red as well. So I'm going to talk through all of those. An interesting thing you'll find, for example, if you see here, is that quite often we'll have a related issue that has a sequel in that same series. And so it's a matter of choosing whether or not you're particularly interested in a character or following a particular line along. It'll all make sense as I talk through it. So no further ado, let's dive in right at the top. What we have here is Underworld Unleashed, issue 1. There. Underworld Unleashed itself is 3 main issues, but there's a variety of spin-offs we're going to talk about almost immediately. So the first one, Underworld Unleashed issue 1. You can see that. This is the image with Joker there, Neron in the background. Subsequent to that, what you need to read is Underworld Unleashed Apocalypse Dark Uprising. It says 1 in the corner, but that's irrelevant. It's a one-shot. So that's what you need to read next. Those are the 2 essential issues out of the way. Now, the next set of essential issues, as you can see, is down here. But actually, we should look at all the ones that take place after Apocalypse Dark Uprising, but before the next essential bit of reading. So in that vein, let's have a bit of a zoom in. So the first one is Azrael, issue 10. As you can see, Underworld Unleashed branding, and it does revolve around this deal with the devil idea. Moving along, we have Guy Gardner Warrior. Now, this is an ongoing series of this era. We've got Guy Gardner Warrior 36, which has the branding. An important thing to note about this, and this is going to sound random, is that this issue also includes an appearance from, I believe it's Joe Gardner. Either way, the Guy Gardner clone from his Year One story. Now, Guy Gardner Year One is a story that was actually in issues 11 to 14 of the ongoing Guy Gardner series. I do cover that in a separate reading guide that I have for all DC Year One stories like that have ever happened. So I've got that covered in there. It's not important. You don't really need to know much about it here. Note that this issue ends by saying to be continued in Dark Stars 37, but you don't need to read Dark Stars 37 and it's not branded. So actually ignore that. After reading Guy Gardner Warrior 36, you can move straight on to the next one, which is Guy Gardner Warrior 37. Again, Underworld Unleashed branding. And Neron does show up in it, so it's very clearly kind of tied into to some extent. Let's move along, and there's actually two Extreme Justice issues. I've no idea what Extreme Justice is. Seems very, very 90s. I've never read any of it other than the issues required for these kind of DC events. So the first one to read is Extreme Justice 10. It has Underworld Unleashed branding and ends with a cliffhanger, and then takes us to Extreme Justice 11, which also has Underworld Unleashed branding. Extreme Justice 11 is one of the weirdest, craziest, most horrific, just it's outright fucking bizarre. It is a strange issue, and I did not enjoy reading it, and I do not plan on ever reading any more Extreme Justice as a result. It was slightly traumatizing. What else do we have? We have Flash. Now, this particular Flash issue is Flash 107. It's got Underworld Unleashed branding, and the very last page says to be continued in Underworld Unleashed number 2. So we know it definitely goes here. Next up there, you can see Justice League of America 105. Again, it has the right branding. It's interesting to note it actually refers to the events of Wonder Woman 103, which is a completely unrelated story called Second Genesis. Don't worry about that. You don't need to read that to understand this. This actually continues on to both Underworld Unleashed Part 2 and also to Justice League of America 106. So in that sense, it's kind of interesting that it's it's there. On to the next one. What we have here is, oh, sorry, pardon me. I'm just trying to scroll things over. What we have here is Damage. So to start off with, we have Damage number 18. This has Underworld Unleashed branding and features a boosted Copperhead. Copperhead is a villain, and when I say boosted, it means that Copperhead has taken the deal with Neron and has got boosted powers. That then leads directly into, after a cliffhanger ending, Damage number 19. Now that has no branding, that's why it's got a dotted line around it, and also it has no real link at all to Underworld Unleashed. So I'm viewing it as completely unrelated. And then over here we have Green Arrow. So this is Green Arrow 102 with Underworld Unleashed branding and features Neron. And then that links directly onto another issue, 103 of Green Arrow, which also has Underworld Unleashed branding. It's a direct sequel to the previous cliffhanger, but again, you see it's in red because it is completely token. It just has no bearing whatsoever on any of the other stuff going on. Okay, hopefully that made sense. This is the kind of stuff we're going to be doing as we talk through this, so I can only hope this is going to be useful for you. As I said, this is a useful infographic guide and it is available on my website, and the written guide is actually available to purchase as well, which I'll discuss at the end of the video. So after we've done the two essential issues there, we've read all the orange and red unrelated and related and token ones if we wanted to. So what else is necessary, right? We've got Underworld Unleashed number 2, as you can see here. Now, after this, and before the next essential one that we look at, there actually is these two issues. They're both totally token. One is Fate number 13, and that then leads into Fate number 14. Fate number 13 has Underworld Unleashed branding. Fate number 14 has no branding and is totally unrelated to Underworld Unleashed in every way. However, for some reason, the last page of it says to be continued in Underworld Unleashed Abyss, which is weird and annoying, but does make me feel like we need to add it in here and make sure that it's contained within this map, even though it's utterly token. All right, let's have a quick zoom out again. Let's go back over. Well, having seen those, that's Underworld Unleashed number 2, as you can see. Let's have a look down, and this is the next one. Underworld Unleashed branding, Abyss, colon or brackets, Hell's Sentinel. Essential issue, you need to read it. Subsequent to that is, please calm yourselves in the back, don't get overexcited, a Batman one-shot. It's Underworld Unleashed, Batman Devil's Asylum. It's okay. The important thing is it is actually essential to the reading. And that then takes us to Underworld Unleashed, Patterns of Fear. Every time I see this cover, I think Neron looks just like Sabretooth from the X-Men. Like, am I wrong? He looks just like Sabretooth. Anyway, Patterns of Fear is also an essential issue. This then takes us into another, unfortunately, very long thread of either related or token issues. So we're going to have a bit of a look at those. Let's start off here with the related issues. So with these, the first one, I'll just keep them all on screen in one go so you can see. I'll just talk them through. The first one to keep in mind on is Starman 13. This has Underworld Unleashed branding. It's actually marked in the cover saying it's part 2 of the Sins of the Child arc, which is in issues 12 to 16 of Starman, but there's no need to read those other issues at all. The main antagonist in this Starman issue is a boosted Dr. Phosphorus. Next up, we have Impulse number 8. Again, Underworld Unleashed branding. The villain in this is a boosted Blockbuster, and it ends on a cliffhanger that leads into the next Impulse issue. But frankly, it's not enough of a cliffhanger to force you to read it. We then have Steel number 21, Underworld Unleashed branding, and features a boosted Metallo that's made a deal with Neron. It ends, and this is, I guess, interesting if you're in here for the Superman reading stuff. It ends with Alpha Centaurian recruiting Steel for the Trial of Superman, which is the last story arc we just discussed in yesterday's video on the Trial of Superman. So that was third era Superman reading order. Moving along, we have Catwoman. So this is Catwoman number 27. It is Underworld Unleashed branding, and it features a boosted Gorilla Grodd. Big fan of Gorilla Grodd, so it's a good issue for me. Subsequent to that is Lobo number 22, again Underworld Unleashed branding. Subsequent to that is Batman 525, Underworld Unleashed branding. This features a boosted Mr. Freeze. And also what we've got here is Superboy 22, which is an issue that has Underworld Unleashed branding and features the character of Knockout, which frankly is a character I've always really liked. I've always had a soft spot for Knockout, so I quite enjoyed this. Before we get into the token issues with the branding on them, we actually need to look at, in this case, this issue here, which is Deathstroke. Now, slightly surreally, Deathstroke isn't actually part of this at all. The reason that I've included it is that for many inexplicable reasons, a lot of online guides recommend this Deathstroke issue, which is Deathstroke 53, as part of this event. Now, it's got no branding, and is actually the first issue of a two-part series called The Borgia Plague. It's an explicit two-part arc within Deathstroke. And it only has a very fleeting blink and you'll miss it mention of the events of Underworld Unleashed. So it's totally token. But I put it in here because lots of people, for some reason, seem to think that it's important. It's not important. And I just want to make that very clear. Okay, so that's taken us through all the related ones. Let's have a look at the token ones here on the side. So with these token ones here, again, I'll try to stay slightly zoomed out so you can just see it all in one, but we'll start off with Aquaman over here. This is Aquaman number 14, Underworld Unleashed branding. Then we have Manhunter number 12, Underworld Unleashed branding. Then we have Justice League of America 106, Underworld Unleashed branding, and very chaotic with no real link to Underworld Unleashed. Then we have, if you come here from the Superman reading order, Adventures of Superman 530, which has not only got Underworld Unleashed branding, it also has Trial of Superman branding as well. Finally, over here on the right, we have Primal Force. Just zooming in a little bit, you see Primal Force 13 there has Underworld Unleashed branding and features Blaze and Satanus. That does have a cliffhanger ending that goes into Primal Force 14, which has no branding, but does mention Neron in passing, so you can read it if you want to. I mean, I say you can read it if you want to. All of these red outlined issues are all token and unrelated in any way. So at this point, you're reading just to punish yourself more than anything else. Speaking of punishing yourself, we have two issues of Rebels here on the side. This is Rebels 95, and we have issue 13 here at the top, and then we have issue 14, which is unbranded. Issue 13 has got the branding, and Neron does show up for a second, blink and you'll miss him. And issue 14 is unbranded and just continues the story on. Totally, totally token. All right, so we covered quite a lot there. Again, that's after reading Patterns of Fear. That's the best place to read all these other related and token issues. After Patterns of Fear, you literally just have Underworld Unleashed number 3. So let's talk about the things that are set again after Patterns of Fear. So a lot of these kind of like double headers here, as you can see. I'll zoom in a little bit, but not too much. What you can see here is Spectre. Spectre 35 has got Underworld Unleashed branding, and frankly, in a nutshell, the Spectre just goes wild in this issue. That then continues directly on to the next branded issue, which is Spectre 36. Again, it has the branding. You read 35 and then 36 straight after. If you don't like Spectre, ignore it. What you can do instead is read Green Lantern. Here we have Green Lantern number 68, in which Kyle faces Mr. Freeze, and then 69. Now, it says quite clearly, actually, when you're reading Green Lantern 69, that it's set directly after Underworld Unleashed 2 and directly before Underworld Unleashed 3. So here we have it. In addition to that, we can then go over here and have a look at Hawkman. Now, when it comes to Hawkman, we've got two issues. Hawkman 26, it's got Underworld Unleashed branding, and as you can see from the cover, it features the Scarecrow. That then ends in a cliffhanger that goes straight into Hawkman 27. That again has the branding, and so it does make sense that it would be here. Let's move swiftly along. We've got a Batman double header. Contain yourselves, of course. This is Batman Detective Comics. We've got issue 691, which has a boosted Spellbinder. If you don't know Spellbinder, don't feel bad. Neither did I. It ends on a cliffhanger that leads straight into this next issue here with the goggles on the cover, and that again Underworld Unleashed branding, and that finishes the Spellbinder two-parter. Speaking of Batman, if you haven't got quite enough of that, then what we have here is some Robin. And in terms of Robin, we have Robin number 23 has got the branding. He fights a boosted Killer Moth, believe it or not. Killer Moth's actually terrifying in this. It ends in a cliffhanger that continues in the next issue, Robin 24. This is actually the first appearance of the character Lockup, if you're interested in Lockup. But yeah, that's kind of up to you. Okay, what else is left? We've got these last two ones. If you've been following my reading guide so far, you'll be aware I'm not a massive fan of Legion of Superheroes or Legionnaires. So what we have here is Legion of Superheroes number 75. It's got the branding. It refers to a pact between Neron and Kronos. It ends by pointing to Impulse issue 11, but also to the next issue we have here, which is Legionnaires 32. That has Underworld Unleashed branding as well. It's a direct sequel to Legion of Superheroes 75, as we've just seen, and it points to both Legion of Superheroes 76 and Legionnaires 33. I'm going to be honest, I hate Legion of Superheroes, and it's so complicated and it's not enjoyable. One thing that I will note as a silver lining is that from the issues literally after these two, so Legion of Superheroes 76 and Legionnaires 33, all the Legion stories start using their own triangle number navigation system. If you're not familiar with what I mean by triangle number navigation system, then shame on you. You should be watching my Superman reading guide, because that's something that the Superman series of this era are using to kind of make it easier for readers to navigate and understand the reading orders. So after the two issues you can see here, Legion of Superheroes finally actually bites the bullet and does the same thing. Okay, we're almost at the end. What we actually have now is a three-parter, surreally enough. So this is a three-parter of three consecutive issues that need to be read in this order. We have the Ray number 18, we have Justice League Task Force 30, and then we have the Ray number 19. I'm going to be honest, this is the best order I can think of to read these, but Justice League Task Force 30 actually happens in the middle of the events of Ray 19. And Ray 19, the first half of it is set before Justice League Task Force 30, and the second half of it is set after. I'm not going to say read half an issue here and half an issue later because that gets way too type P for me. And as I've said in almost every single one of my videos, I'm not a type P reader, I'm a type J reader. So I'm not a slave to continuity in that sense. If you're not sure what I mean by when I say type P and type J reader, again, please do watch the intro to my Superman reading guide, or even watch my dedicated type P, type J explanation video on my channel. With those three issues out of the way, the very last thing to think about is this. From my Superman reading guide, we have Superman Man of Tomorrow, issue 3. It has dual branding. As we can see at the top, it says Underworld Unleashed. At the bottom, it says Trial of Superman in this really rubbish font that looks a bit like the new Twitter font. And it sets up directly into Underworld Unleashed 3, which, of course, is here. And that's the cover. Um, that's it. That's the entire Underworld Unleashed event. It's collected in a bunch of weird kind of trade paperbacks. There's no omnibus for this, thank God, given so much of it is so irrelevant. If you are going to read it, I would recommend just reading the green issues. So just the ones you can see here with the 4 one-shots as well. That's the best way to read it. Some of the orange issues, the related issues, are interesting. No doubt all the Batman fans will go rushing headlong to the Batman issue desperately. But they're good, but they're not necessary. And all the issues that are in red are, frankly, utterly token and unrelated, and you don't need to read them at all. So while this is a 53 issue event, zooming right back, looking at the whole map, it's a 53 issue event, but only 7 issues are actually important. As always, if you want to have a look at the map, check it out on the website. Next time round in this playlist, we're going to be looking at Superman 4th era. But if you're watching the DC events playlist, it'll be the event set directly after Underworld. And there we have it. In case you're interested in knowing where these resources are, so the guides, the maps, and so on, they're all available on my website. They're all available for free. You can go into the website, which is nogodsorkings.com, and download the Google Sheet for the Superman reading order, or you can go on the website and look at these reading maps for all the various DC events and a whole bunch of other things I've got on there to your heart's desire. If, however, you are interested in a written version of this guide, then it is available on Amazon. I've recently just self-published it. It is the cheapest possible tier you can get on Amazon. So it's 79 pence UK, 99 cents American, and so on. It's free if you're on Kindle Unlimited, and there is a free sample on the website as well. The reason I put this onto Amazon is kind of a proof of concept. I'm interested to see if people are interested in the written guides, whether or not people want to pick them up. And also it's a good way for me to bat off all the people that are going to be in the comments asking for a Batman guide. If you want a Batman guide, I don't really particularly have any interest in doing one, but I will do one if this book gets 500 reviews. So if this book gets 500 5-star reviews, then I will start doing a Batman reading guide at some point. I don't think that's going to happen, but there we are. Of course, feel free to support the channel by picking this up. Of course, like, comment, and subscribe. But as always, the best way to support the channel is by picking up one of my other books, which isn't a non-fiction reading guide. It's actually a fictional, completely original superhero story. It's prose, so not a comic or words, but it's about superheroes in just a really interesting kind of post-apocalyptic dystopic idea. The first 4 books of the series are out, and if you want to support, please pick that up. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay classy.